Hello, I'm John White, a professional performance historian who, for over 25 years, has interpreted events from the past through the portrayal of in excess of 30 characters. Of all the characters I portray, it is my representation of King Henry VIII that proves the most popular. I present the king as he would have appeared in the year 1544, when he was aged 53 and married to his new and sixth wife. We hope that you enjoy what the king has to say. My loyal subject, it is indeed the 26th of May, the day upon which I, your sovereign lord and king, did assert that he would engage in a Q&A. We have, these past several days, been pleased to receive many questions from goodly and loyal subjects spread across the face of the world, and we will be pleased to answer of those questions. In normal times, before the contagion, I would progress about this mine realm, would hold audience in all manner of places to goodly and loyal subjects. Oft I would appear in theatres and perform a show entitled Divorced, Beheaded, Died, an audience with King Henry VIII. There we would offer what is called in the modern idiom merchandise, or I dare I say, referred to as merch. And here you see the merch. This selection of items will be sent as fast as is possible for that goodly and loyal subject who did pen the most entertaining of questions. To begin, I must assert the many offers of marriage by kind ladies to be my seventh wife. I must advise there is yet no vacancy, for it was in the year of 1543 I did take as my new and sixth wife, the Dowager Lady Latimer, Mistress Catherine Parr. She is indeed most kindly, for I am old and did not care to be alone. Thus, ladies, there is as yet no vacancy. I have a question from a Mistress Shay Low, who does reside in that place termed Singapore, which I understand is far to the east. And she does ask, Your Majesty, if you could have but one wife and set the issue of heirs aside, which of your 6 wives would you choose to be queen? Well, in truth, I must pay deference to my present wife, Mistress Parr. But when, in the year of 1509, I did become king, all my life I'd been told what I must do, but thence upon becoming king, I could do as I did wish. And I did entertain a true love, a deep love, a real love for that woman, Catherine of Aragon. For many years, since the death of my poor brother, Arthur, the Prince of Wales, I had entertained a deep and longing love for Aragon. I was under no stricture. I could take to be my wife whomsoever I did please. It was said at the time that I did marry Aragon in fulfillment of my father's dying wish. This is not so. I did marry Aragon for I wished to. I wanted to. I did do so for, above all other women, it was she that I did choose. So in answer to your question, Mistress Lowe, it is indeed Catherine of Aragon, who was my first and indeed my true love. Now, let us move on. I have here a question from Mistress Karen Cossar from a place termed Australia, which I do believe is very, very far distant, although I must admit I have not thus far heard of it. Your Majesty, when you did put aside Catherine of Aragon, she kept making shirts and sending them to you. Did you wear them? Well, in truth, yes. Yes, I did wear of her shirts, although I must state, much to the general annoyance of my second wife, the whore Boleyn, she did believe that Aragon was to be put aside far distant and that there was to be no contact. But, yes, I did wear her shirts goodly shirts, for I am most cleanly in my person. I do change of my linen 2, 3, 4 times of the day, for in the heat of the day one does become moist. It is the miasmas, the stinks, and the humours that do issue forth from our bodies that are taken away by the linen. Thus, by the changing of linen, upwards of 4 times a day perhaps, one does remain most cleanly in their person. So yes, Mistress Cossar, I did indeed wear Aragon shirts. I am in receipt of a further question from Mistress Christine Burgess from Michigan, a place which I understand is in the New World. She does ask, if your son, Henry Fitzroy, had not died so young, would I have chosen him to be in my will after Edward and before the ladies Mary and Elizabeth in the line of succession? My son, Fitzroy, was brought unto this world by Bessie Blount of my wife Aragon's household in the year of 1519. The birth of Fitzroy did prove to all the world that I was capable of siring good, healthy sons, and that the failure to do so, the fault did lie with Aragon. 'Tis a long journey between a child in the womb and one safely in the crib. 6 times. 6 times my wife Aragon did bear me a child, and all save one were dead. The Lady Mary, born in the year of 1516. It was clear that Aragon could not bear me a healthy son. It is in the bearing of healthy sons that a wife does prove her worth. If a king cannot have an heir, all matters as naught. It is indeed true that I, in the belief that Aragon would not bear me a son, had set in train the procedure for having my natural son, my bastard, Fitzroy, legitimised, but then, in that fateful year of 1536, it did please the Lord our God to take unto himself my son Fitzroy. It was in the following year of 1537 that my wife Jane, of glorious and beloved memory, did bear forth a good, healthy son, the Prince Edward. Edward is indeed my heir. And you, Mistress Burgess, you're mistook. I have no daughters. For when I did rid myself of the Spanish cow, the girl Mary, she was bastardized. And similarly, when that poisoning witch and whore did lose off her head, Boleyn, the girl Elizabeth, she too was bastardized. I have but one heir, the Prince Edward, although in truth, my wife the Queen Catherine Parr, a most kindly queen, does have a notion that there should be a new act of royal succession, one that does recognise Edward as my heir, to be followed by any children, the fruit of our loins, and thence by the girls, the ladies Mary and Elizabeth. It is my wife's notion. I have not yet thought upon it. Thus, as I do appear before you, I have no daughters. I have but one heir, the Prince Edward. Now, I'm in receipt of a further question from Mistress Grubbs, Sally Grubbs of Ohio, which I also believe is in the New World. Your Majesty, she asks, what happened after your jousting accidents, your bad leg, your headaches? What did you do to try and remedy your ailments. Would you have lived longer if this dreadful accident had not happened? Lived longer? Well, Mistress Grubbs, I must advise you, 'tis treason to speak of the king's death. I do appear before you, the very model of a king, in rude and vigorous health, saving of my leg, 'tis true. Many years ago, whilst jousting, that most manly of sports, I did injure of my leg, but thence it was in the year of 1536, in February, at a great joust held to celebrate the passing of the Spanish cow. For Aragon had been gathered unto God in January 1536, and to mark her passing and the freedom of this mine realm, for with her death we were freed from invasion. Her nephew, the Emperor Charles, he would not go to war against England for a dead woman. And thus, to mark our freedom, we were to hold a great joust. I did take to the field. I was running at the ring, training with my lance. But then my horse, it did stumble. King and horse were locked in a deadly fall. I did appear to all as if I were dead. For quite some time, I was without consciousness, and my leg, that which had been injured before, was again injured. So even now, my leg, it is said that the bone remains broken, and yet is encased within the flesh. There is a wound that does not heal. It does ooze of pus and blood, and thence, on occasions, my leg, it will swell to an enormous size, and then it will burst. And all manner of muck and filth will flow forth, and it doth stink a great deal. To remedy my ailments, I am regularly bled. To relieve me of the humours, the poisons within my body, I am my own good doctor. I do thank you for your kind question. I am in receipt of yet a further question from Master, or perhaps may even be Mistress, Ashley Willett Pedigo, from a place called Illinois. Illinois? I know not. I understand it is in the New World. But the question from this master or mistress: Your Majesty, if you could do everything again, what would you change? This question has led me to much thought. Aragon. If I could have convinced Aragon, upon her failure to provide me with a male heir, that her womb was barren, barren as a brick, that there is precedent for a barren queen to stand aside, to go into a nunnery, a holy house, by the mere act of taking of holy orders, our marriage would have been null. There is precedent. Indeed, even queens of France, similarly barren, have stepped aside, allowing their husbands, their kings, to take new wives to provide for an heir. It was Aragon's duty to step aside, but she was stubborn to the last, to the very last. Catherine the Queen, she would not stand aside. It is her stubbornness that did lead me to approach Rome to ask for our marriage to be annulled, for I did believe that in Leviticus, having lain with my brother's wife and having exposed my brother's nakedness, that we were not married in any event. A false marriage. For all those years, those 24 years, I had not lived with my wife. I had indeed lived with my sister. 'Twas Aragon's duty to step aside, firstly on the bounds that our marriage was not licit, and secondly on the grounds that she was barren, to allow me, the king, to take of a new wife legitimately, and to sire of sons. Yes, if I could change anything, I would change the mind of Aragon, the stubbornness of Aragon, thence all that has come since. The break with Rome, my becoming the head of the church in England, God's representative upon earth in England by Act of Parliament. None of this would have befallen. We would still be loyal members of Holy Mother Catholic Church. Yes, all that has come is the fault of Aragon. If I had the power to change anything, I would change the stubbornness of Aragon. Now, I'm in receipt of a most splendid question from a Master Andrew Butler, from a place I have no knowledge. USA. My advisors do tell me this may be an acronym for a place in the New World, USA. But in any event, Master Butler, you have furnished a most splendid question, one that has enabled me to think deeply and now discourse upon that most delightful topic of mine, theology. Yes, your question, Your Majesty, what was your inspiration for the 6 articles of faith, and what brought you to narrow it down to 6? A splendid question. Now, the 6 articles of faith are contained within an Act of Parliament that I, your King, did pass in the year of 1539, an Act for abolishing diversity in opinions. Established religion was in the process of being reformed. 'Twas a tide we could not stop. I, of necessity and by Act of Parliament, had become head of the Catholic Church in England. I did break with Rome, but more particularly, I did break with the Pope. This did allow people to discuss and have divergent views upon the matters of great import, of religion, of the Church, of the Lord our God. Thus, the 6 articles, as contained within my Act of 1539, did allow me to affirm the traditional Catholic teaching, and that this traditional Catholic teaching was the basis for the faith of the Church in England, the Catholic Church in England. My Act went further. It did desire to curb heresy. There are many who do act in heresy, and those who act in heresy do often follow in treason. And prior to my Act of 1539, heresy was a matter for the bishops to dilate upon. It was the bishops who could send my subjects to the stake. It was the bishops who had the power to burn heretics. In my Act of 1539, I did formalize that which was heresy, and I did place the punishments for heresy within the confines of the true courts of law. In so doing, I did redefine heresy so there is no room for confusion. But as to those 6 acts of faith, the 6 articles, as contained within my Act of 1539, I've said it did seek to establish, for the basis of the English Church, the true Catholic teaching. Thus, the first of those articles, our belief in transubstantiation. The second, our belief in the doctrine of the Eucharist. The third, that priests and women of the Church may not marry. The fourth, that celibacy and chastity are the ways for those men and women of the clergy who have given their lives unto God. 5, we preserve the sanctity of the Mass. And 6, we preserve the importance of confession. You ask in your question, why did I limit myself to 6 articles of faith? What more can there be? In those 6 articles, you will find indeed the very bedrock upon which our church, the English church, is based. The church of which I am the head. By Act of Parliament, it is I who is God's representative upon earth. My word is the very word of God. Thus, through my Act of 1539, I did set down the basis for the good order, rule, management, and governance of the English Church. This, you fellow from Ussa, is indeed a most splendid question, and I do thank you for it. I have a further question from Mistress Jane Hand from the Principality of Wales. I have a great fondness in my heart for the Principality of Wales, for not only was I the Prince of Wales, Wales is indeed the land of my fathers. My father, Henry Tudor, King Henry VII of that name, was born in Pembroke Castle. The Tudors are a Welsh family of ancient descent. Thus, Mistress Hand, your question, Your Majesty, why did your father use the dragon in his coat of arms, his armorial bearings? Well, quite simply, the dragon is the emblem of Wales. The Welsh dragon, you may or may not know, is indeed the oldest national flag known to history. The use of the dragon predates the arrival in these islands of the Romans. The dragon as the flag of the Welsh is indeed most ancient. Upon my father, Henry VII of that name, becoming king, where the dragon had normally been set against a field of whites, my father did impose half green and half white. The colours green and white are the family colours of the House of Tudor. Thus, even in your time, in Wales, you may proudly bear the oldest emblem of nationhood known to man, which sits comfortably upon the colours of the House of Tudor. Now, I have a further question. Mistress Barbara Crowther Roderick, another resident of Ussa, or USA, or the USA, she asks, Your Majesty, pray tell, what is your most favourite food? Well, as you may observe, I do enjoy the very best of diets. I do eat all manner of flesh, venison, beef, boar, rabbits, peacock, songbirds, blackbirds, swan, all manner of beasts. I do enjoy the very best of diets. You see, those fellows of the lesser sort, those of base degree, the common people, they do oft rely upon that which grows beneath the earth, vegetables and such like. Vegetables are common food for common people. I have a question from Mistress Tessa MacDonald from the town of Liverpool. She does ask, Your Majesty, is there any opportunity that I may find the ancestors of a fellow called Boris Johnson and run him through to save my subjects from the vagaries of his descendants? This is indeed a most strange question. I have made inquiry of my court and my advisers, and I'm led to believe that the said Boris Johnson is a person of great importance in the modern time. I'm also advised that Boris Johnson, in his family history, does not hail from England. I'm advised that indeed His family roots are far away beyond Turkey in the country of Armenia. And although the influence of your sovereign lord and king, Henry VIII of that name, does indeed spread far and wide, I do not believe I have any influence in Armenia. But I do thank you for your question all the same. Now, another question from Mistress Elizabeth Morgan from the great city of Cardiff in that splendid Principality of Wales. She asks, of all the people that she favours, she has a particular fondness for Cardinal Wolsey, and she asks, did I regret moving him from his office as Lord Chancellor, and would I not have done so if it had not been for Mistress Boleyn? This is a complex question with a complex answer. My father, Henry VII of that name, did have a policy of raising people of base degree, common people, to high office. For we do discern that often the Lord our God does place in people of base degree great skills and abilities. Thus it was with Cardinal Wolsey, a butcher's son from Ipswich. My father the king did raise Wolsey high. He did prove himself to be most valuable. I did continue with the services of Wolsey, for I found him a most capable and able fellow. It was, however, his failure to secure for me the annulment of the marriage to my first wife, the Spanish cow. He did promise to bring me that annulment, thus freeing me, your king, to marry again to a sire of a son for the comfort and benefit of this my realm. Cardinal Wolsey, a most competent fellow, did fail in perhaps the most important moment of his career. It is true that that poisoning witch Boleyn did work against Cardinal Wolsey, and she must bear some responsibility for perhaps poisoning of my mind against said cardinal. He was a most able fellow, a person of base degree, a person raised high. I too have raised similar base fellows. Sir Thomas More is naught but the son of a lawyer, and thence there was Cromwell, Thomas Cromwell, a great man, a man of base degree, a brewer's son, a blacksmith's son from Putney. I did raise him high, and he did offer me great service. 'Tis a fact that these three fellows of base degree, Wolsey, More, Cromwell, in giving me of good service, did similarly fail in their service to their king. So there you have it, my loyal subjects. Some splendid questions, 10 questions submitted to me, your sovereign lord and king, from goodly and loyal subjects spread about the face of the world. We have further questions, which on this coming Friday, we will be pleased to answer in the second part of this, our Q&A, and thence, at the completion of that second part, these splendid items, the merch, will be dispatched to that fellow or mistress who has submitted the most entertaining of questions. As we continue in isolation, I do encourage you all to stay in safety and security whilst the scourge of the COVID, the contagion, does yet abound. Be assured that I, your king, has close to his heart your safety and well-being. Thus may the Lord our God keep you safe in peace, unity and concord. May God bless the Commons of England. If you'd like to subscribe to my channel, then please click the link here. If who would like to see our other films, then please click the link here.